Right, good day, learners. Today we are going to do a poem entitled The Birth of Shaka by Oswald Mtshali. Before we even look at the poem, I want you to ask yourself, what do you know about Shaka, as we call him here in Africa, Shaka Zulu? What do you know about him? He was born in 1787 and he died when he was 40 years old in 1828. He was the king of the Zulu kingdom in the region which is known today as KwaZulu-Natal. He died, and I think it's safe to say that his remains are believed to be buried somewhere in the Stanger region in KZN. When Shaka Zulu started ruling, his reign began with what was known as the Mfekane, which is a period of destruction, a period of intense warfare, little tribes uniting and actually building and developing the nation. So now I'm going to start reading our poem, and then we are going to look at the title, and then we are going to break down as much as we can. Okay, the birth of Shaka. His baby cry was of a cub tearing the neck of the lioness because he was fatherless. The gods boiled his blood in a clay pot of passion to course in his veins. His heart was shaped into an ox shield to foil every foe. Ancestors forged his muscles into thongs as tough as wattle bark, and nerves as strong, as sharp as syringa thorns. His eyes were lanterns that shone from the dark valleys of Zululand to see white swallows coming across the sea. His cry to two assassin brothers, "Lo, you can kill me, but you'll never rule this land." Quite an intense bit of poem we've got going on here. And I'd like to start by looking at the title. It is called The Birth of Shaka. Now, the birth is referring to the subject of our poem. The birth is referring to the subject. But the theme of our poem is actually his life and his character. His life and his character is the theme, but the subject is his birth. So I need you to be able to differentiate between the two concepts, the subject and the theme. For example, you could have a theme of love, but what is the subject? What are you actually saying about love? Are you talking about heartbreak? Are you talking about problems? Are you talking about the joys, right? So the theme and the subject are two different components. So when the writer says the birth of Shaka, he's giving us a clear time frame. And we are specifically looking, as I've said, in the late 1700s. In line 1, he says his baby cry. And when we read the word baby, straight off we are thinking of that newborn, that helpless babe, dependent on its primary caregiver. Think of the connotations of baby that comes into your mind. The baby is soft, cuddly, just generally a very soft, pleasant feeling that, we all want to hold the baby and snuggle the baby because of its helpless state. But it says here, his baby cry. And when we think of a baby crying, it's crying because it's hungry, it's wet, it needs comfort. But line 2 says his baby cry was of a cub. Now, a cub makes us think of a baby lion. And straight away, what are the connotations of a lion cub? A lion cub is not a human cub. Already it has those fierce qualities going for it. There is clear evidence that this cub is going to grow up into be a formidable enemy. And the reason why I'm saying it's a lion cub is because in line 4, it refers to the lioness. So the lioness is the female, is the mother, therefore the cub has to be the baby lion. So already the birth of Shaka tells us that the newborn that arrived was unlike other children, unlike other babies. He was strong, he was courageous, and definitely we don't get the sense of helplessness. His baby cry was of a baby cub tearing the neck of the lioness. Now, firstly, we've got a metaphor going on here because we are comparing Shaka, the baby, with the baby lion. But we don't have like and we don't have as, so it is known as a metaphor. And the fact that the writer chooses the word tearing. Tearing is a violent action. There's nothing gentle about it. So it ties in beautifully, tearing with the cub. Tearing the neck. Now, when a predator, when an animal like that goes for the neck, why? To rip out. It actually can rip out, it can crush the neck until all life has ceased. So we are talking about the very act of killing, even of murder. His baby cry was of a cub tearing the neck of the lioness because implies that the reason for this violent action will follow. The lioness is, of course, the mother, his mother Nandi. And it's very interesting, according to history, that Shaka's father was not known. And so he grew up in the house of relatives, just a little bit of background, where he was often teased and mocked for not knowing who his father was. And in Africa, knowing your parentage is very, very important. It denotes where you come from. It just gives you that sense of foundation, of roots, and to a large extent it does affect the self-esteem. Tearing the neck of the lioness because he was fatherless. So here we have the reason for this murder built on not knowing who his father was. So what is it saying? It's saying that he blamed his mother for that. We move on to the second stanza, the gods. And you will notice the small letter G, gods, we are referring here to African religion. The gods boiled his blood. Beautiful alliteration of boiled his blood. The B is a strong sound, and it's just talking about strength. When it says boiled his blood, what does the saying mean? My blood is boiling. It means I'm becoming very angry. I'm heading that way to losing my temper. So it's giving us a very good idea about what the man was like. The gods boiled his blood, meaning that he was not responsible for the qualities that he had, because it was not in his hands, it was in the hands of the God. This was his fate. This was, in fact, his destiny. The gods boiled his blood in a clay pot. And I love the image of a clay pot. Again, it's very African. It's very traditional. So there was nothing modern about this man. In a clay pot of passion. And the word passion, we've spoken about this many times, it implies strong feelings, strong love, strong hate, passion to course through his veins. The writer doesn't say to flow, the blood flows through his veins. It says to course, meaning it's rushing through his veins. And normally when people feel their blood rushing in their ears, they are about to get very angry. And it ties in beautifully with the image of passion. So we have passion. So in fact, in stanza 2, there are 3 keywords which all link beautifully: the boiled, the passion, and the coarse. In stanza 3, his heart was shaped as an ox shield. Now, they're not talking about his physical heart. Your heart, the seat of your emotions. His heart was shaped as an ox shield. And now you know the ox shield. Think about the significance of the shield, not just for Africans, but specifically for Swazis. The shield, is it hard or is it soft? The shield is hard. Why is the shield hard? Because its purpose is to give protection. It is to give protection. And so the shield is hard. It's almost impenetrable. It takes a lot. A normal spear cannot just penetrate the shield. And so that is where the comparison comes in with his heart. His heart was hard. Do you think that one can be a successful leader? Do you think that one can be a successful conqueror, warrior, if one has a soft heart? I think not. So as a strong military warrior, he needed to have the strong heart, as strong as an ox shield. The reason for the strong heart is given in the next line: to foil every foe. And to foil means to beat. Again, we've got alliteration going on. To foil the foe, to foil every foe. To be, and the foe is your enemy. So we needed a strong heart, because what Shaka Zulu would actually do is that as he traveled out of his kingdom with his warriors, when he went into a different region and he found a different tribe of people living there, what would he do when he went to war against them? He would kill the men, kill the warriors, take the women, and incorporate them into his kingdom. Little boys were put to death so that they wouldn't grow up to be a danger to Shaka Zulu. Now you need a very strong heart to go out there and kill little boys. You need a strong heart to just kill a warrior, just to kill per se. You need a very strong heart. And he had the strong heart. He had the strength and he had the courage. Ancestors forged. Your ancestors in African culture, again, are very important. They guide us. They give us advice. They are often perceived as being very wise. And so they are often called on to assist. And it says here, the ancestors forged. In other words, the ones who set the example, the ancestors forged his muscles. And the word forged comes from the context of a blacksmith. Now, the blacksmith is the man who is usually portrayed as being very strong. He's wearing a long leather apron, and he has the fire going in his workshop, and he works with metal, and he puts it in the fire, and when it starts heating up and it's glowing red hot, he pulls it out of the flames, and because the metal is so hot, it's a bit soft, and he shapes it. For example, he makes horseshoes, he makes different things. That is a blacksmith. And so the blacksmith, when he's shaping, we say he's forging. And here it says ancestors forged his muscles. So the idea is of muscles that are shaped, muscles that are hard, muscles that are strong. Ancestors forged his muscles into thongs. What are thongs? Thongs are strips of leather. Thongs as tough as, lovely little simile there, as tough as wattle bark. And of course, wattle is an indigenous African tree, as tough as the wattle bark. The bark is, of course, the outer lining or shell of the tree that you can strip down, as tough as wattle bark. Second simile, and nerves as sharp as syringa thorns. Now again, in Africa, we have some seriously large thorns that if they penetrate your skin, you will be in terrible anguish. And the syringa is a very famous African shrub as well. We move on to stanza 4. His eyes were lanterns. Metaphorically, lanterns. Think of a lantern, that container with a glass that you hold. Lantern, almost like a lamp. What does a lantern do? It gives off light. It shines brightly at night. So his eyes are being compared. His eyes are bright lights. And it's those brightness of the eyes that are showing his passion. Do you see how beautifully everything comes together? His eyes were lanterns, line 20, that shone. Now, you know, in the darkness, lights can shine far. You can see that beam of light for a long distance that shone from the dark valleys of Zululand. And I think that the writer is playing on the word dark. He's talking about dark-skinned men. He's talking about dark in the sense that they had not received the enlightenment, and I use that word very loosely, enlightenment from Caucasians who were yet to arrive on the African shores. That shone from the dark valleys of Zululand to see white swallows. Now, the white swallows are referring to the ships, the wooden ships, their sails. Think about it, the wooden ship on the sea, and you have those sails which are filled with the wind. They are billowing in the wind, and they are usually white, cream, light in color. So his eyes were shining. His eyes, he was already seeing the future. What was going to happen? To see the white swallows coming across the sea. And I want you to hear that tone. It is ominous. It's almost sensing the danger, the threat. These ships that were coming, white swallows, are not just white ships. It is the white people. It is the Caucasians who are coming from Europe. And they are coming to Africa. Why are they coming to Africa? They are coming. They are not coming to make friends. They are not coming to investigate. They are coming to conquer and claim and pillage and rape and destroy. That is why they were coming. When they got to the shores and they saw all this land, they went crazy. We want to own it all. But this, of course, by the time this happened, this was obviously now still in the future. To see white swallows coming to the sea, across the sea, full stop. His cry to two assassin brothers. Now the two, you know what an assassin is, right? When you kill someone. And the assassin brothers were in fact his half brothers. The one is quite famous, of course, Dingaan, and the two brothers had plotted to kill him because they wanted to have the leadership of this powerful Zulu house. So his cry was not a cry of pain, it was in rage and frustration, because they didn't attack him in a fair setting where he stood a chance of defending himself. Okay, it was at a vulnerable point when he was attacked and he was stabbed to death and his body was thrown in a pit and they covered it with rocks because they just wanted it to be gone. His cry to two assassin brothers, and then we have a colon because the colon is followed with an explanation. Lo, you can kill me, but you'll never rule this land. So even as they are stabbing him with assegais, they are stabbing him with these spears to death, his final utterance, his cry is, you can kill me. You may think that you will end up ruling, but you won't, because I have already envisioned the future. I know what's coming. Those white swallows, they are coming with their superior weapons and they will conquer us all eventually. And it makes one quite angry when we think of what the future then was. A proud leader like Shaka Zulu, attacked in a vulnerable moment by two half-brothers. A beautiful poem conveys the strength and the passion of a true African leader. I hope that you enjoyed this poem.